Okay, so what we're going to do with this little demo is demonstrate how to resample data using the Universal Translator software, data that has non-synchronous timestamps, and then we'll export the data out of the UT so it can be analyzed or processed with some other tools. So what you're seeing is a Excel spreadsheet with two different data sets. There's one grouping of data in these columns. This is flow data that is every 10 minutes. You can see 60 minutes, 26, 36, 46 minutes after the hour. So every 10 minutes, this flow meter is recording values. And then here we have some weather data that's being recorded every hour, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Neither one of these sources is recording data on the hour. And we'll tidy that up as well. We got 53 minutes after the hour, hourly, and we have 16 minutes and 11 seconds, or 6 minutes and 11 seconds every 10 minutes. Let's actually do that so that we have data that at least as a common interval we'll have the hour and then every 10 minutes. So say 1 o'clock, 1:10, 1:20, and so forth. So to prepare for this demo, I took these data sets and I saved them in a spreadsheet, but saved them as CSV files. So I want to just open those up and look at those so you know what you have to prepare, how you need to prepare data to be imported into the UT. UT will not open Excel files, which have some proprietary restrictions, and it just simply won't be importable. But these CSV files are rather generic, comma-separated data. Tabular data is also importable into the UT, and it doesn't have to be time series data. You can import change of value data into the UT as well. So this is the flow data, just to sort of remind you of that data set, and then I have a separate file here for the weather data. Again, weather data is hourly, and the flow data is every 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is open up Universal Translator software. And what we'll do is take these two files and we'll import them into the UT. But before we do that, let me give you a little bit of background on the UT. Not that this is going to be a full demo, but just so you understand the structure. Let me make a new project, which will give, so I hit new project here, and then I get the new project name. I can change the name of the project. I'm just going to call it resample example. That's good enough. And with the Windows Explorer on top of the UT, I'll be able to just drag data into the UT. The structures here, the sources is where the raw data, unfiltered, unsynchronized data will be imported, and the channels are the synchronized data. Then we have some tools for filtering, graphing, and analysis, which we're not going to really demonstrate as part of this little video. So let me take each file, each one independently. I could do them both at once, but I think it's worth sort of seeing that now that I dragged that file on top of the word sources, it shows the 5 columns of data from the flow CSV. So these 5 columns are now different channels in the UT, each one of them listed here. And then I can take the weather data and do the same thing. Just drag the file on top of the word sources, and those 4 additional files, channels, sorry, are now in the channel. What we want to do is take the data from these 2 records, one that starts on March 5th, 2016 and goes to March 21st, 2014. So it's about 3 weeks, I guess a little bit less, maybe 2 weeks and some change worth of data. And then the weather data, in the UT, we're going to select the channels folder, which has a set of properties. It has a beginning time and end time. Now, why it shows 2001, because the data doesn't start till 2014, is a little odd. It must think one of the records is earlier. So I'm going to change this little time algorithm to the overlapping. Actually, much better. So the time period where both data sets overlap is March 5th to March 21st. And that's a good thing to reference. However, I don't want the data going starting at 10:16. I actually would like it to start at 10:10 or 10:20 for that matter. So let me take the time algorithm out completely, and we'll just shed a little bit of data on the ends and have this start at 10:20 and end at 9:30. So we have 10-minute data. We will have 10-minute data over this time period. And we're going to change the interval from 15 minutes to 10 minutes. So now, if we were to graph, if we were to analyze the data, or what we're about to do, which is export the data, it'll create 10-minute data that starts at 10:20 a.m. on March 5th, and we'll go through 9:30 a.m. on March 21st. So that's really our last step here, is just to export the data out of the UT. And to do that, we're going to go to the, I'm sorry, it's under the Edit. Let me click on the Channels folder here. Go to, you could go Export Data. You can also right-click on the Channels folder and export the data. That's sort of my preference. And it's going to ask you to, for a file name, which we'll just call flow weather resample. Guess we'll spell it right. And hit save. That's it. No bells, no whistles. You don't really get any sort of feedback at that point. But here's the file we just created. Let me open that up. So you can see we have 10-minute data on the hour. So we don't have these sort of weird sort of increments of time. And the flow data, again with the labeled columns, or the first 5 columns. The weather data is the next 4 columns. Now remember what happened here is we had hourly weather data and 10-minute flow data. So you can see that each one of these records is changing. They're not the same value. But the weather data, because it's hourly, is going to actually represent the same value. It does change where we transition from, in the case of weather data, we have a shift at, remember where the weather data, the timestamp for the weather data, I think it was 53 minutes after the hour. So it's going to shift from one record source to another here. That's why this changes. It's a little bit of the hourly data is going to have a little bit of the temperature data from 10:53, and then from 11:53 is what's going to give us that value. And then all of these are basically the same value that was provided at 11:53. Let me make sure of that. So 76, for instance, would be the temperature for March 5th at 11:53. March 5th, 11:53, 76 degrees. wind speed of 6 miles per hour. So you can sort of do a validation here, and it just takes that same record and repeats it until it transitions to the next sample, which is, again, this row here is a little bit of the temperature, wind speed, humidity data from the previous hour, and a little bit from the sort of a time-weighted average. And then you have five records that are the same because, again, we have hourly data that we're converting to 10-minute data. So it doesn't know anything but that the temperature for the hour are these values, and it sort of giving a time-weighted value back for each one of these 10-minute increments is going to represent the same value. So you get a sort of a transition value, which is sort of a fraction or a weighted value of two sources, and then this is just the same record for 5 of the 6 intervals per hour. It's the same, and then we have another one that's the time-weighted average from 2 sources, 5 records that are identical, the time-weighted value for 2 sources, and so forth. And again, each one of these are also time-weighted averages of 2 records, because remember that the flow data was also not on the hour. So what it will do for each one of those flow readings, it'll weight 60%, since there's six minutes of value from this record, and then the next 4 minutes or 40% will be weighted from this record, and those 2 values will become, as a time-weighted average, will contribute to the flow value in these columns. So that's it. Certainly contact me if you have any questions, but there is your 10-minute data for both flow and weather.